Greetings, good people. This is Marcus Brown with ChessFrog OmniVersity. Today, our topic is assassination. We're going to discuss what is an assassination. We're going to discuss famous assassinations. We're going to discuss also false flag and what seems to be an assassination. Over the weekend, a young man is accused of taking a shot at a presidential candidate in the form of Donald Trump. There was one person killed, two people severely injured, and Mr. Trump appears to have some type of cut or bullet wound to the ear. We're not sure if that came actually from a bullet or if it was a shattering of one of those plastic displays where you read a plastic teleprompter or a plastic shield that broke and may have sent shrapnel at him. In any account, there was an assassination attempt upon a presidential candidate. In this country, we've had a number of assassinations. Most of them were located in the 60s, but we had some that occurred in the 80s. We had Hinckley attempt to kill Reagan and a psychotic attempt to get the attention and the affection of Jodie Foster, an actress at the time. So we have assassination attempts in the 70s under the form of Gerald Ford being attacked by the former follower, Squeaky Fromm, who was one of the followers of Charles Manson. Then we get to the 60s, which was a hotbed of assassination attempts, all the way from, we didn't say Kwame Nkrumah, we said that was Lumumba. I apologize. Lumumba's assassination in 61, followed by Kennedy's assassination, followed by Malcolm X's assassination, followed by King's assassination, and then another Kennedy being assassinated. That takes us all the way through the 70s because we also had Martin Luther King's mother get assassinated. The word assassin dates back almost 1,000 years. There was an Islamic group who chose to try and control the Holy Lands through assassination. And they had a group of people who used practices that included daggers, included poisons, and included other forms of making people dead or making people unalive, making people unalive for political purposes. An assassination is not just like a regular unaliving or killing of a person. An assassination is an attempt to change or control politics or change the world governance through use of deadly tactics. The young man in question, I've reviewed a few videos that were made of him. There's one alleged video where he is shouting at some political workers or shouting at people that are doing something political on a campus. And the words he is shouting is actually, we need to cut the throats of Republicans or cut the throats of fascists. He makes those statements, but right now the media is claiming that he's a registered Republican. His parents are supposedly Democrats. He donated money to a Democratic forum. I honestly think that there's more to this story than meets the eye. I know some people are taking it at face value that there was an assassination attempt. A lot of people are speculating that maybe this was more of an attempt to get attention from the public or to guarantee that positive bounce back that one would get from an assassination attempt. After Ronald Reagan attempted assassination, his favoritism went straight up. Medgar Evers, we can't forget him. There was also an assassination attempt on him, as my producer is telling me. Well, more than an attempt, there was a direct assassination. But assassination has been a way that unscrupulous people, and even our own government has chosen in order to control certain parts of the world. There have been plenty of dictators and plenty of leaders, elected leaders in South America assassinated over the course of time. And these assassinations sometimes benefited our government. When we look at the death of Saddam Hussein or the death of Gaddafi in Libya, it kind of benefited our nation to see these men dead because they didn't necessarily agree with everything that we were saying, or they might have had some information that we probably didn't really want them to have. Assassination is not very democratic. It's not the correct way to do things, but it is a way that our country and other Western nations have chosen to deal with leaders that we felt were out of control, or leaders who had a point of view that might have been in direct opposition to what we wanted. And sometimes that included leaders in our own country. The murder of, what's his name, Reginald Hampton in Chicago, who was part of the who was affiliated with the Black Panthers and was the heir apparent to Black Power in America, kind of shook and stirred people up. The police broke into his apartment, shot at him and his pregnant girlfriend and others while they were sleeping. So, assassination attempts by government factions is something that has occurred. It's probably not officially sanctioned, but when you got the police shooting at you without any regard to your life or regard to repercussions, then they're being sanctioned. We have to just call it what it is. The most recent incident involving Donald Trump, I have to say that my thoughts and prayers go out to the people that were harmed in that. My thoughts and prayers go out to the people to the person that was murdered in that. My thoughts and prayers even go out to the family of the young man who apparently was disturbed in some way. If you watch some of the videos of him, uh, he had some emotional problems, or he had some stuff that he was dealing with, especially if he's talking about cutting the throats of Republicans and fascists. But that leads also to me believing that he wasn't really a Republican as is being reported. There's a lot of things sometimes we have to read between the lines with. A lot of things we have to study a little closer and say something's not making sense here. It's kind of like when we talk about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Now, I was in the Marine Corps. Oswald was in the Marine Corps. Marine Corps has a great shooting program and a great sniper training program. But for Oswald to have gotten off all the successful hits that he got off with only a couple of bullets, it seems kind of impractical or unfeasible that he was able to be that successful at that distance and get at least two or three headshots and tag at least two or three people that were inside that open limousine that day. Some people say that he had people that were helping him. Some people say that it was a larger conspiracy. There's a lot of allegations, but the man that winds up killing Oswald definitely had affiliations with the American, quote unquote, La Casa Nostra or mafia, uh, in the form of Jack Ruby, who was supposedly just a owner of a strip club, but it kind of goes deeper than that. If he shows up and gets access to a police station and is able to assassinate Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald's wife even says that she don't believe that her husband was involved with this. So let's create a new term here. Oswalded. What does it mean to be Oswalded? That means sometimes you get set up and to make it look like you did something that you didn't do, or you get set up to have a greater proportion of something that you did that you might have been involved with. It sounds like conspiracy theories going wild, but it's very easy in today's world to identify people that might be disturbed or to identify people who hold a certain political belief and set them up to take the fall or take the blame for a bigger thing or a bigger issue. I honestly believe that somebody had to either coax, help, or give this man advice on how to create this assassination attempt. You have people in the crowd that repeatedly reported to Secret Service, hey, there's a man over there on top of that roof with a gun. Hey, there's a man on top of that roof with a gun. And the Secret Service didn't do anything about it. You have a roof overlooking the venue that should have been secured by the Secret Service. They should have had their own sniper up there watching the crowd and watching other things going on. But apparently, for some reason, someone did not cover that roof. There's too many missing parts to this, and I'm quite sure if a true investigator set in motion to find out who this young man was in contact with in the weeks coming up to this event, who might have coaxed him, who might have trained him, who might have advised him. You just don't go out on a 90-degree day and sit on top of a roof. Anybody that's ever done roofing knows that's not something that you're just going to be doing for an extended period of time and expect to get something done. You just don't go out and get on top of a roof without considering, hey, how am I going to get up there? Do I need a ladder? Is there an access? There has to be some type of planning and some type of help that this 20-year-old young man who does not have necessarily a military background, who does not necessarily have NRA training or any type of, as far as I know, major gun training. For him to be able to get access to that roof, for him to be able to get those shots off, I think he got at least 3 shots off from what I heard on the video. And I'm not sure if the follow-up shots were from the snipers or who took him out. But I saw footage of him. They got a headshot on him, and it wasn't a pretty shot. So there are some things that are not copacetic with this whole thing. I'd appreciate it if you can give us a call at 248-820-5053 and give us your opinions on this. I might be the conspiracy nut that believes there's something in the water, but then again, I live in Flint, so there is something in the water. But what we really need to address, though, is who is really responsible for this assassination attempt. Was it just a wild, lone 20-year-old who was able to outsmart the Secret Service and find the one spot where they didn't cover? I don't know. These guys are pretty smart in making sure that they cover all angles and do X, Y, and Z. I'm trying to figure out if the public was telling them that there's somebody on the roof with a gun, why they did nothing about it, or why that person wasn't shot before he could even get a shot off. There's a lot of missing components and pieces to this, and I'm quite sure the story is going to flip-flop back and forth, whether he's really a Republican, as they claim he is in the media right now, or whether he's more liberal. And it really doesn't matter. You should not be trying to assassinate people over there. I do not condone assassination, whether I like the candidate or dislike the candidate. I do condone American and democratic processes that allow us to vote, even if we do have that electoral college that really makes the decisions for us. So if you can call in 248-820-5053, it would be appreciated. If you are on Facebook, make a comment, ask a question. We're here and we're live. I got Grundy as my producer, and I want to thank Out of the Mud Productions for this opportunity to discuss this. All right, we're live. This is Marcus Brown here. Who do I have on? We're expecting a young man by the name of Rich to come on, and we've got him. How you doing there, sir? Can you hear me?
I'm doing pretty good.
You're doing pretty
Yeah, I
good?
can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yes, my name is. How y'all doing? My name is Rich Jones, and I'm here at Get It Out the Mud Inc.
Out of the Mud Inc. Yes. Today we're talking about assassinations, and we talked a little bit about assassinations in the past, Everyone from Kennedy, Lumumba, Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King's mother was even assassinated. A lot of people forget about that assassination. We also have Reginald Hampton
Yeah.
that was assassinated by the Chicago police. But right now we're discussing the attempted assassination of Mr. Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump. Some people say that this assassination attempt will catapult him straight to the White House. What are your opinions about this whole thing
I
so far?
hope not.
Well, right
First of
after
all, I
Reagan.
send my condolences out to the young man family that lost his life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's a tragic situation, and it seems staged. Sometimes things seem one way, but really ain't staged. So anyway I go, a young man lost his life at the end of the day. So
Not just that
whatever the
young man, there was
situation,
also,
that's not good.
yeah, we send our thoughts and prayers out not just to that young man, but to the family of the person that was shot in the audience, and we send prayers out to the people,
Everybody,
to the injured also. I don't approve of
everybody that was
assassination.
affected.
Right, there are a lot of people that are going to be suffering from PTSD and some trauma from this event also. So,
Even the people that was around that didn't get hit, that just had to duck. That's the situation for them to think about.
well, some of us lived through that in our younger days, just from being in the wrong place at the wrong time in the hood. But uh, to see this on live television is probably traumatizing to a lot of people out in the audience, especially if they were supporters of the candidate, or even if they weren't supporters of the candidate. It's I think it's un-American. Even though America has participated in assassinations, I don't think that's the America that we want or that we should be hoping for, where
No,
assassination is the way that we get the things that we want.
yeah, yeah. That's never a route that I would like to take. That I would enforce. That I would mention. I wouldn't even conversate. That's not even a conversation for me to hold about somebody. That's just it's you just had to deal with it. If you can't beat them in the polls, you just had to deal with the decisions that they make.
I would agree with that. This is part of the
You just got
American
to deal
process,
with it.
part of being a member of a democracy. Sometimes we don't have our candidate does not win, and it's not about being a sore loser. It's about trying to say, "Hey, what's the best we can take from this?" What do you think, Rich? What do you think about this young man and his ability to access not just the weaponry involved, but be able to access that roof? There's a lot of weird questions that need to be answered, and
It's
I
a
think
lot
that
of question marks. It's a lot of question marks. A lot of
right,
question marks. From the fact that you heard he got a gun, he got a gun. Then you
right. A
heard
lot of people
gunshots. Then you
reported
heard his gunshot. It's a lot.
a lot
It's
of
a
people
lot.
reported that there was a man on the roof with a gun before the incident, and we're not talking about seconds before. We're talking about minutes before, and people were saying that they felt like they were blown off by the people that they reported this to, and it wasn't just to Secret Service, but it was also to police force people in uniform that just got reported to. There's a man over there, and then he appears to have a gun on the roof. And I'm trying to figure out if if I'm doing security for somebody of this importance, I would make sure all roofs are covered. There was a roof behind him that was covered, but what about this roof directly in front of the podium, less than was it 1,500 feet or of about a football field's distance away? I'm not sure about the exact distance, but
Ridiculous.
that should have
We
definitely
should
been
have
covered.
learned. Special service should have learned from the Martin Luther King who got killed, assassinated from the balcony of a hotel. That all
Mhm.
roofs and stuff like that should have been covered. All that should have. There was no. If it really was an assassination attempt, that was terrible work by the Secret Service.
By the
I got
Secret
to give them
Service,
that.
not just Secret Service, because
That was
local police.
terrible work.
If I'm a hotshot cop, or if I'm on this detail, I'm going to be monitoring, not just monitoring the crowd, but I'm going to be monitoring the perimeter, and I'm going to be looking at rooftops, and I'm going to be looking at all windows facing there, because assassination doesn't have to come from a rooftop; it comes from inside of a room, and that's how a lot of professional assassins are trained, not to stick the gun outside
From
the
a
window.
room, definitely.
They do it, sit inside of a
And
chair
if they do
inside the
come
room.
from a ceiling, they come from a cover.
Right, have some type of cover. This guy was out on a 90-degree day, and I don't care if it's a white roof or a black roof, it's hot. And he's trying to take shots at a presidential candidate. There are some missing pieces here, and it seems weird, but I don't think this man, because I saw some other videos of this young man where he made some incendiary comments about cutting the throats of fascists and Republicans. I don't think this man was really a Republican. Just spouting that out there. I don't think that he had the wherewithal in order to actually pull this off. I mean, is he climbing a ladder to get on this roof? Did he get roof access from somebody at the company? You just don't walk inside of an aluminum business and just go where you want to go, or get up on top of a roof without being noticed by the people at that company, or others. And people did notice him. So why wasn't action taken before uh, former President Trump took to stage? If you know you got somebody that's in question, if somebody had called in a threat, or somebody did X, Y, and Z, they would not bring the candidate out. It's almost like this was staged, or there's definite benefit to somebody to have an attempted assassination. You look at Ronald Reagan's numbers after there was an attempted assassination on him, he shot straight up. His approval rating shot straight up after Hinckley attempted to assassinate him. You still there, Rich? Oh, look like we lost Rich. But if you are out there and you have questions or comments, please give us a call at 248-820-5053. I hope and pray that some investigation is done immediately into this, because it would not be fair for someone to gain benefit, especially with the deaths involved, from an artificial attempted assassination. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but there are some missing components to this. And I'm hoping that whether you are liberal or conservatives, you can recognize that if there's only 3 roofs in the area, all 3 of those roofs should be covered. If somebody's reporting this before the candidate gets on stage, then that candidate should be held up and say, hold on, we got to check this out. And it's been done quite a few times where a rally will not start on time because of security reasons. Well, we got an incident at the front gate. We got this going on. They won't even start some concerts on time if there's a questionable issue going on. I think we got Rich back. Rich, where you at?
I'm back, man. That's my bad. I forgot to turn off my notifications, and somebody called and just threw us all out.
Okay.
So I'm back in
Um,
now.
Rich, do you remember where you were when somebody attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan? Or do you remember hearing about the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan?
I remember. I was a youngster. I remember. I
I
remember.
remember I remember coming home from middle school, and I stopped by my homeboy Vincent's house, and Vincent said somebody tried to kill Reagan. And I'm like, what? And back then in Detroit, there was a not the greatest emotion towards Reagan. Reagan and Coleman Young were getting into it. Coleman Young called Reagan President Pruneface, and Reagan made all the federal money dry up for our freeways. So we didn't have the greatest love for Reagan in Detroit for a number of reasons. So we would later find out that he was also part of the Iran Contra bomb that dropped, that crack cocaine bomb that dropped on the hood. But let me digress and get back on topic. Assassinations. And you say you remember where you were when you heard about Reagan.
Yeah, I was a little kid. I was in elementary then.
Okay. Do you remember if a teacher told you, or if your parents told you, or if you just saw it on the news?
My parents, my parents was talking about it.
That's pretty
I can't tell you exactly what they said, but I remember my parents talking about it.
right. There are people like in our parents' generation who remember it's one of those things that's iconic of the 20th century that news travels so fast you can remember exactly where you were when an incident happened. You got to remember that 200 years ago when Abraham Lincoln got assassinated, it might have taken a day or two, even with telegraph, for most people to get the news. I mean, Juneteenth is celebrated because it took over a year for them to notify slaves, but I think that was kind of convenient that it took over a year to notify all the
Yeah,
slaves that freedom had happened. But when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, it took a little bit of time for the news to travel. Yes, there was telegraph back then, but you still had to get down into the pockets, into isolated areas. Uh, After that, the biggest assassination that occurred was Archduke Ferdinand in which caused World War One. Now there were assassinations since then, but then you have some major assassinations start to happen in the '60s, and it seemed like a lot of South American governances and a lot of East Asian governances and a lot of different people were being taken out one by one because they held strategic positions or advice or held some type of power. It wasn't always just a leader that gets taken out. Sometimes it would be an assistant or somebody who's crucial to change in the world. Uh, the '60s is just an ugly period of time, and I'm hoping that we're not returning to something like that because using assassination just isn't right. You still there, Rich?
it's never right. It's never right. I would, like I said earlier, I would never approve the assassination of anybody in any situation. I just feel that if you vote your way into a situation, protest your way out, petition
Yeah.
your way out, or write resolution your way out, but don't shoot your way out. I don't
Right. It's
believe in
not. It's
violence.
not.
I'm,
It's not.
I'm not for
It's not
Trump,
the
but
American.
I'm not for that assassination attempt either.
Right. It's not the American way, but also it's not the American way if this was a staged or if this was intentionally a foilable assassination attempt. You got this one nut out there. He's sitting on top of the roof over there. Let's take advantage of it and make sure he can't get a clean shot. But also, let's take him out so he can't talk about it.
So we
A
can't
lot of
talk about it.
Right. I mean, because it's just they're like I keep saying that there are missing pieces, and it seems like the media that coverage that we're getting right now is regurgitating the same thing over and over again. Young Republican tries to shoot Trump, and then a lot of people will tell you the way that he was shouting at these Republicans on his campus. He didn't sound Republican if he's talking about cutting the throats of fascists and cutting the throats of other Republicans. That doesn't sound like very Republican behavior. Now, don't get me wrong. You can be a Republican, be willing to cut throats and whatnot, but that doesn't sound very, very Republican. You got him coming from a background, and I'm not going to assume that any profession is more liberal than others, but he has a father that's a doctor or has a advanced degree in psychology. He has a mother who has a degree in education. This is what I'm assuming from the footage and the things that I've read about him. You would think that he would have had more help and support. There was talk about him
Yeah,
having problems at home with different with his parents and leaving home at a certain age. But still, I'm trying to figure out how this person who is not balanced can successfully make this attempt. There's you just don't say I'm going to kill somebody and go out it's not the old west, especially someone of this fame and this level. If you I mean, you got to think that all right, I got to know where he's going to be, what time he's going to be there. I got to get my equipment in place. I got to get this in place. I got to know where I'm going to be shooting from. I got to know that that roof is not going to be covered because If you look at the map of the whole site, there's only two real roofs close to the podium, and those both those roofs should have been covered by somebody in an official capacity. There's just too many questions left open with this that makes me scared that this is the new America where you can control things by controlling the media or controlling the narrative.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. What was that young man mental history?
His father, I believe, was in psychiatry or psychology. His mental history, I'm not sure if that's been shared yet. I tried to find some stuff out because originally they said the name of the assassin was somebody else, and I can't
Mm,
remember the name. Somebody Viola or Violet, they said was the original assassin, and then they flipped the story very quickly and said no, it was this kid Cook or Crook or whatever. So I'm thinking that they're still mishmashing with his information to decide what's going to be put out there. Now, back in the olden days, the media would be doing that. But the media steps back from the government and just says, we'll take whatever the government will give us. But you haven't heard from any of his friends or anybody that knew him or anything along those lines. Only thing that I've been able to pick up on is a video of him going off and he's yelling and screaming at the top of his lungs, very upset, well, extremely upset to be in public, sounding like he needs some type of help. He sounded like he needed some type of help, making death threats against fascists and Republicans. And if he was on campus doing that, then somebody on campus should have said, hey, buddy, you can't be
yeah,
making death threats against anybody, even if it's just because of their political beliefs or whatever. But he was going straight off, yelling at the top of his lungs. Somebody was recording, trying to get him to repeat it over and over again. So this is before the assassination attempt. So it doesn't make sense that they are claiming that he's a registered Republican, especially when he's making donations to Democratic causes, and
mm,
especially when his parents are registered or supposedly, allegedly registered as Democrats also. This is Marcus Brown with ChessFrog OmniVersity. Phone number is 248-820-5053.
let me, Marcus. Let me ask you a question.
Yes,
So,
sir.
being that he gave them a warning, do you think
Did he give them a warning?
by having that blow up? Yes, but do you think it's too many blow ups that that's why that they played that off and didn't really pay no attention to him or something? How he slipped under the radar?
I don't think he slipped under the radar. They said he was on a watch list of sorts, but this is what I've
Uh huh.
noticed on Facebook. A lot of things that look funny and look hilarious. I was watching a man destroy a mannequin on a subway. I was watching a man do that
Mm,
on a subway, and people thought it was humorous. There's a need for mental health in this country that is being overlooked. There are a lot of people, I don't want us to knee jerk and all of a sudden start sending everybody to the loony bin because they get angry at the Walmart. But there's a lot of stuff going on in public that says it's a cry for help, and we laugh at it. We find it humorous when people get into fights or beat up a mannequin in public or do these things. But we're becoming jaded, and we're becoming desensitized to some of these actions and to some of the stuff that's going on. Facebook is kind of dangerous in its ability to desensitize us to stuff. We see a kid go off, oh well, I saw a kid go off worse than that. And that's what people would say. Rich, give me a second here. I got a
okay,
I
I'm
got a
reading.
Cynthia H. Good evening, Facebook family. Out of the Mud Incorporated, positive energy to you. Cynthia A says, I was in Detroit all weekend and I was told about the beef between Coleman Young Sr. and the Republicans, which led to striving Detroit. Regardless, Coleman Young Sr. still managed and held down Detroit. I would agree with that. This beef between Coleman Young and Reagan
Facts.
started in '81, and a lot of the money that was supposed to go into the People Mover and the quote unquote Renaissance of Detroit from the federal level kind of dried up, but we still survived.
Shout out to Coleman Young Jr. I'm gonna get to Detroit and holler at you one day before 2024 ends.
Cynthia H. also says, United States of America is now a big joke. May God bless us with his humbling and grace. Please cover and protect us with the blood and love of Christ. Uh, we are
Facts.
not the
Amen.
America that people used to love. There was a time when America represented innovation. There was a time when America represented democracy. There was a time when America represented freedom and a lot of other things. Soldiers came with candy bars and gave candy bars to the kids and syphilis to the women. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? But anyway, there was a time when Americans coming was a good thing. But then we have the concept of the ugly American. And what is the ugly American? That's the American that goes to a different country and then expects everyone to speak his language or her language, that expects certain things to be done exactly as it's done in the United States of America. People get tired of that. You're in your own country, and here comes some tourists tearing up stuff, trying to exploit your children and your women, and trying to ask for things that might not sit well with with your culture. Getting drunk, doing whatever. We have Americans that go all over the world to get drunk and party hard. Uh, America's not what it used to be in the eyes of the world. We need to start. We have swung very dramatically since 9/11 and to more of a state where they are allowed to listen to your phone calls, where they're allowed to drop you in a place called Guantanamo Bay, where jury trials are not held, where police can kill you. This is not the America of old. There's a lot of different things going on here and there that just don't add up and just don't swing of or don't strike of America, freedom, and land of milk and honey. Mentally, financially, emotionally, physical hardship, and definitely needs to be addressed. I'm agreeing with you on that, and I'm thinking if this man was unstable or is unstable, he had to be unstable.
Very.
Somebody should have been able to address it or catch it. We recently had a case in Michigan where a young man brought a gun to school and hurt some people, and the parents were actually held accountable. This young man here was 20 years old, was already out of his parents' custody, but somebody should have been able to catch this. They said he was on a watch list or said that his name popped up as a potential troublemaker. I'm trying to figure out how this person who you already know about, you've been informed about, makes it on top of a roof that should have been covered. There's too many missing components here. See if we got anything else.
There's another prime example where those guns need to be
The
outlawed.
AR-15. They said it was an AR-15 type rifle.
Need to be outlawed.
Well,
Need to be banned nationwide.
I'm not sure if I agree with the total banning of any weapon. I think that it needs to be discussed about who can get access to them. But then when you start doing that, you start eliminating certain populations easily. Well, if you've been convicted, you can't have a weapon. You can't vote. If you've done this, you can't if you're on certain medicines, you can't have a weapon. Or you can't do this.
I'm not banning all weapons. I'm not speaking on banning all weapons, but I am speaking on banning weapons that you can't go hunting deer and bear with. Why can't you shoot a human with a gun you can't use on an animal? That's all I'm
I,
saying. And
I see your
I can
point,
see people.
but then you got people that say, I want to make sure anybody that kicks in my back door catches all 12 rounds, all 9 rounds I'm carrying quickly. You got some people that are that protective. Now,
Joe,
do you need nine
Joe,
AR-15s or do you need go ahead.
wouldn't wouldn't that be wonderful? Because I remember that we didn't carry guns, but if you kicked in our back door, we let loose. But now we're carry guns and we letting loose at gas stations. We're letting loose at family gatherings. We're letting loose at amusement park. A little kid got shot getting ice
Mm-hmm.
cream in Flint. So we need some gun control. But it's too much money involved. Money is the problem. It's too much
Mm.
money involved.
My friend Mr. Grundy, a veteran, says that you go to other countries like Afghanistan, and a lot of people have guns, but they don't have the same problems we have that requires gun control. They're not out just randomly shooting people at the ice cream parlor or whatever. We have a problem with guns in this country. My friend Mr.
Certain
Grundy says
cities.
it's more about
Certain
respect and
cities.
humanity. Now, remember, America is built on that principle of an armed militia and people being able to do certain things, but that doesn't always translate correctly. Guns have been a part of America since day one,
Forever.
and it'll be hard pressed to remove all these guns, historical guns that you inherited from your granddad, from your dad, and so forth. We'd be hard pressed to try and take those guns, number one. But should we really take the guns because a few people are not using them correctly? I'm not seeing any new comments here.
But honestly, Joe, what are them guns made for? Why are them guns manufactured?
Well, you take a look at the M16. That was a military issue. The AK,
Yeah, I mean,
the AK-47,
if we on a war in the streets of Flint, if we
the
at war or
Kalashnikov.
something,
Are we though? I mean, you think about it. Sometimes those guns get put inside of our community. Sometimes those guns get put inside of our community so we can kill ourselves. That's what some of us would think. I don't think. I think there's a need for a change in gun laws. Yes, removing all guns from all people. No. Yeah,
no. But I'm just talking on the automatic weapons. I'm not the guns that Hunter. I'm just talking about the big guns that Eric Mays, the late great Eric Mays, would say. Them big guns. Got to get them big guns off the
I would
street.
agree with you, but there's been a militarization of America. If you look at what the police force used to do and what it used to represent, and look at what started happening in the 70s with a lot of military surplus going directly to police departments. These guys literally have tanks now, and they put a battering ram on the front of it with a happy face. These guys are using
Is that
it,
the
they're using helicopters to drop bombs on people in Philadelphia. So the militarization of our police force kind of scares people, and if you talk to some of these, not just city guys like you and I, or urban guys, you talk to some of these country boys and these militia members, and they'll start saying, "Hey, let them try and pull a Waco on me or Silver Creek or one of those situations out in the country, and they are ready to fight and defend their land and their property out in these countries." So it's not just an urban problem. This delves and touches on a lot of different militias out there,
a lot of
not just
cities,
cities, but
not all
militias out in
cities,
the
because
country
right here,
where these guys are held up.
yeah,
There are some people saying that they're trying to start a race war to a degree, but they haven't been successful. There's a lot of things going on in America right now that kind of scares me. This assassination attempt is almost out of a book with how many missing points, or how we're going to solve this mystery about how this person of of diminished
the reaction
probably of diminished
afterwards,
capability because of his mental
immediately
state.
after. That's a question
I'm
mark.
sorry, repeat that, sir.
I said the reaction that Trump portrayed
Oh, he
immediately
threw up that black
afterwards.
power fist.
That's the question mark. That's the
Was that
red
a black
flag.
power fist that he threw up?
He threw up a fist.
He threw up a fist.
Can I speak now?
Go ahead, Mr. Grundy.
I didn't want to interrupt your show, but
It's our show.
okay. So Rich, you were speaking about getting rid of some of the weapons. Uh, my time in service and just different places I've been and different types of people that I've communicated with, folks that would generally seem to be considered racially charged, I would say they're more independent thinkers of their own community. They just don't want any other people in their communities. They say just keep it us that we don't want to hurt nobody. We don't want nobody to hurt us. But if it comes to that, then we're going to teach you a lesson. So some of the guys that I met in the military that were from nowhere USA that never in their life were interactive or met anyone of any color until the Marine Corps, they didn't have racial issues. They had segregation issues. Just stay out of mine. I'll stay out of yours. I don't understand who you are, what you are, and I don't want to care to know about what you are, who you are. It wasn't hate. It was just like, hey, this is this we over here, y'all over there. And I can respect people that want to just have their space. What I can't respect is people that don't respect the idea that people were enslaved for the freedom and liberties that some people receive now
I take for granted.
and take for granted. That ignorance and the naivety and that cognitive dissonance is something that that I won't accept, because I've stood at the gravesite of my great greats who were enslaved and and people dictated the words that they spoke about their time enslaved. So it's something that I hold in high regard of the respecting myself, saying that I will not bend knee to certain things. But also on the other side of it, for me, in my experience, people want to be able to have the respect to honor the people that they lost during certain times of this country's uh, 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 time period. So people died during the Civil War on both sides, whatever their opinions are. We don't agree with what everybody does, says, and how they do it, but we should at least respect their humanity, even if it was a misguided thought, because who's to say what is misguided and not? And I know common sense is supposed to dictate that, but a lot of us don't have a common thought to have common sense. Um, but with weapons, I'm of this. We can't be so ignorant in the what so-called black community, urban community, to where we don't get ourselves prepared for defense. I ain't saying for offense, but for defense. It's like Esther going to the king when the king had allowed them to sign a decree to kill all of them. She went to the king and said, can we at least defend ourselves since you can't stop the decree? So I'm saying people have eugenics is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
People have a real hatred.
For those who don't know what eugenics is,
eugenics is when I thought you were about to break it down. Eugenics is when you take certain idealistic constructs about what ethnicity and race and blood type and all this other stuff is, and you make it's like making a perfect human being. Like all we want is blonde hair, blue eyed people. All we want are kinky hair, dark skinned people, and everything else is considered this
inferior.
is inferior.
So they would get rid of not just people that didn't qualify racially, but they would get rid of people that were mentally handicapped and say you can't have children.
Right.
Or if you were
the ugly
gypsy,
laws, it was considered the ugly laws. Like Eric Patrick Thomas, he educated me on that. Who started the Slavery Fire? So those things were considered eugenics. So like the
early
Margaret Singer.
Yeah, the early social workers.
Yeah, Margaret Singer. She
and
was
early people
considered one of the largest eugenics.
Henry Ford was also involved with supporting eugenic ideals.
But the point of it was to say, hey, get rid of anything that we consider a nuisance in the bloodline, in the gene pool, because we don't want to have a weak or defiled gene pool, and so on and such. But there are people that believe in those things that don't want you here because they think just looking at you and what you look like is inferior, that you are going to infect them with something that's nasty and that's going to deprive the human gene pool, and they need to speed up the Darwinism of your life.
I'm gonna try and get us back on track a little bit with the assassination. I know we started talking about gun control, and maybe gun control is a part of a solution, but assassination is definitely not part of the solution. but we are kind of hypocrites also because where we say we don't like assassination, America has been a part of assassinations around the world. Whether you talk about Gaddafi or leaders in South
Uh-huh.
America, or us
Uh,
even supporting certain us supporting certain governments that condone assassination or murder. So we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and assassination should not be part of a good democracy.
Well, all the comforts that we have right now are based on the people that had to leave in order for us to be comfortable, and based on the suppression of different people across the globe for us to have these comforts, from these cell phones to these microphones to
To the
the
gym
food
shoes,
all of it's all based on the level in which we're wanting to be comfortable, and the level of uncomfort they're willing to take in order to give us the comfort.
I just try and imagine what the world would be like if Kennedy hadn't been
hmm,
assassinated. What would the world be like if Martin Luther King had not been assassinated?
hmm.
What difference would it make if Malcolm X and a lot of other people? What if we can go back in time? And I'm not a big proponent and I don't look at Abraham Lincoln as the be all end all best friend of black people, because a lot of stuff he said
He
was very
wasn't.
racist.
He wasn't a friend at all. He
He wanted to
believed in
maintain the
capitalism.
status quo and
He
yeah,
believed in
money.
capitalism.
But what if he had survived into a second presidency, into a second presidency? What would be different?
He wanted to. Well, we don't have the answers to that. This
Maybe we wouldn't have had Jim Crow,
this simulation that we're in, we don't have the button to replay.
right?
Uh, but my opinion is that we're all, as a human society and population, we're all hypocrites. We don't fight for the things that matter, which are the people that don't have. And then the things that we do have, they're misguided based on things that we've been programmed to want. So but going to the assassination, then I'm gonna
Cynthia
get
H
out.
says you're her American hero.
Well, I appreciate Cynthia Hayes and everything she does for the community, and how she keeps a voice and speaks up. But to reset something, you have to create an event. The what is it called? A something event. So that is something that's trying to be happen. You have to create an event that tips the scale, some kind of catastrophic event to tip the scale for things to change, for something to happen differently. And we're what? How old is this country? Um,
1770. If you go from
uh,
1776, then we are 200 and
so,
almost 50 years, 250
so
years.
with that, you're talking about other cultures and countries, such as your Russias and Middle East countries, or so-called Middle East countries. And so they're much older in their thought process.
I think what's name's
Rich,
trying to
what
chime
you
in.
saying?
Hmm.
I thought you were saying something, Rich.
No, I didn't say. No, I'm just listening. I'm getting some good information coming on. Keep it going.
So, and I'm quit in a sec, but those countries, I would assume, based on how young we are compared to them, and it's like the little homie come on the block, and all of a sudden the thing you've been doing for 10 years, they figured out how to triple that in one, and you like, well, little homie, what you doing? It's like, hey man, I'm just doing what you did, but I just doing it my way. So now the big homie's looking at the little homie like, hey, that's cool, but you doing a little too good. You a little too wild. Like you'll do anything for this money around here. Right? Hey, look, y'all told me it's all about this money, all about this power, this control. So I gotta get it. And whoever down with me, they down me. But if you ain't, then you either get down or lay down.
Yup.
And so America is the get down, lay down country. America is like, oh, who want to sleep with me? I'll sleep with you, because if it's gonna give me what I need to get, then that's what you do. And the hypocrisy of it is that we everybody under this banner, we are not doing anything to change the narrative to say that, look, this is morally wrong. This is all. No, we just trying to be comfortable because our lifespan ain't long enough, to our understanding, to do something that makes sense.
We
Let
live in
me
America,
let me say
and
something right quick. The reason
go ahead,
why
sir.
I take The stance that I take against gun violence is because, I've been dealing with kids ever since I've been 19 years old. And a lot of children that I have worked with, I have buried also. And I'm also hearing all of these stories from all of these shootings that affect everybody in Flint, whether they are directly involved or know one of the victims or know the accusee or just everyday citizen that's seeing this and being heartbroken. I mean, we be having murders on Christmas Eve. I mean, we didn't throughout the years, every year we having different tragedies. So that's why I say we need to get them guns off the street. We need to. I'm not saying take all guns off the street, but in cities like Flint, to where I know people that live in Flint that wake up and go to Grand Blanc and go to Flushing and enjoy their day, and then they come back and go to sleep in Flint and stay away from the windows. And then they wake up the next day back in Grand Blanc, where you don't have these people shooting each other at gas stations. You don't have people getting shot at ice cream parlors. You don't have 100 rounds going into a house where the person that they want to shoot don't ain't even at, but it's innocent kids and women in there. So that's the reason why I say what I say. And I
Okay.
understand and I'm
Well,
ready for the fight
the
because
beauty of America is you have the right to say that. And some other places they'll say, no, you can't speak against what we don't want you speaking against. But the reason, if we go back in time, the Black Panthers took the state. They didn't take the state house. They went to the state house and they had weapons. And that was the only time the NRA ever stood against people being
weapons.
armed when it was black folks that were arming themselves. So this hypocrisy in America, we love our guns, we want our guns, but we don't want those people to have guns.
That's
Is
gonna
it's kind
stand
of a
up and
scary
represent.
concept. I mean, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. You don't, and I'm scared that if we did start some type of major reconstruction of gun control, it's going to be a lot of people that look like us that will lose their guns first before people that look like the founding fathers lose their guns.
So I agree and disagree at the same time because law and policy and everything affects everybody under that law and policy. It may trickle faster to the most what's considered the acceptable laws, which a lot of us understand that we're considered acceptable laws. We are the ones that they use as the test subjects, as the as the bunnies to see how the makeup burns. But with that, it's not just us. I think that narrative that we put each other against is what causes us not to be able to have the conversations and the power in order to get where we need to go as a country. I'm like this. I get it. I understand because I'm not immune from racial issues. The police always harass me when they pull me over, and so on and such. I have
Technically,
some of the worst stories when it comes to police abuse that in this country, and that's a fact. Period. 'Cause-
well,
but my thing is, if we keep the narrative separate, then we're going to be the victims of what people say. Because since the birth of a nation, since propaganda has begun in this nation, we have been the ones that they point the finger at. I'm like this: take that finger away from me. I'm not going to allow you to look at me as the person that's causing your problems. You're causing your own problems. And you take your little crying tears and your whine and tell, and you figure it out yourself because I'm not going to be your footstool, your step. Now, with that said, you're not going to take away my rights, my liberties, and the justice that I'm supposed to have in this country. I'm gonna fight for those things since you won't give me what I've already earned, even if that's a uphill fight. But going to what Rich was saying about the kids, I done lost several family members, young adults, in the last 5 years, and have to go through the process of what should be done, how do we handle these things, because everybody has emotions after these things. Seeing the tears of some of my relatives and stuff after they lose people, that causes me as a human being and a protector to want and handle justice myself. And I'm not opposed to those things. I was born and raised here, so I'm not opposed to those things, but I'm also not opposed to trying to find solutions. And those solutions come when we stop these people from putting all these unnecessary drugs in our community, all these pills that we allowing our kids to get access to, all of the stuff that the pharma companies are putting it. You know what this stuff is doing. It's changing and altering your mind. If you already got the lead poisoning in your body, if you're already dealing with depression from growing in an environment that has little resources, and then you put on top of that edgely psychotropic situations that the pharmacy community is putting in here and big pharma is creating, then yes, you're going to have people imploding. Because when I can see and go to a different country and I see 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds with AKs and all kinds of weapons, and they don't have those same issues because they don't have the same mental health issues and drug issues that we're dealing with here. So
Well,
if you get
if
rid
you
of
look at
get rid of people that are putting the drugs in our community, that are causing us to have these discords, and the folks that are putting all of this, that are promoting all of this stuff into our into the ministries that we're listening to, which is called music, then we change the narrative. But until that happens, we're gonna have the same thing because we're asking for some different results and still doing the same stuff. That's my opinion.
let's get a reality check right here. Reality. America is built on guns. It used to be a time in America where you could take a gun to school.
Mm.
Kids who lived in rural areas took a fishing pole, took a gun. They used to shoot a squirrel or a rabbit and take it home for dinner. It wasn't an issue because people understood gun safety and understood the purpose of guns. You still, at this time, have people who are in high school during hunting season will drive to school with a rifle inside their truck, in the back of their truck, and it's not a big issue. It's not the gun that's the problem, it's the people and their understanding of how to use the gun. Billy the Kid was a kid with a gun, but he was working for somebody who allowed it, and he used that gun straight on, face to face with other people who had a gun. There were rules when using a gun in the Wild West. You don't shoot a man in the back. You don't shoot an unarmed man. If you did that, then they came after you and they called it straight murder. Now, part of the problem that we're having today is laws get so complicated and twisted. Technically, you cannot have a CCW, a permit to carry a concealed weapon, and have a marijuana card.
Mm.
Technically, you cannot have both of those. Those are contradictory, and they can come and seize your weapons. Hey, wait a minute. This guy has a marijuana card. That means he's having some type of emotional this, that, and the other thing, or there's some kind of disconnect. Let's go grab his weapons. We give up our rights to weapons sometimes, and I don't think we should necessarily do that. We should be responsible and have locks on the weapon. We should teach our children how to use weapons correctly, not just say, "Ooh, don't touch that, baby." We don't want them playing with guns, but we want them to understand that a gun is a tool, just like a car, just like a rake, a shovel, or a knife. It's a tool to be used in a certain way, not to be played with. Now, if we return to that, yes, there will still be people that shoot and kill each other, but we'll have a better understanding about this thing that we call a gun and a weapon. But on the flip side of that, you got countries like England where the police or they used to not carry guns at all, and the death rate, the murder rate is way down as far as murders by those type of weapons. Now, people did find other ways of killing each other, but a gun is instant. A gun, I mean, you can stab somebody and it's hit or miss whether or not you stab them the right way. You use a gun, more than likely, you're gonna put enough shots or lead inside that person to kill them
Nowadays,
and murder them. And in countries that don't have guns, they don't have that problem. But this country
facts,
is not like other countries. It's built on guns. The
facts.
NRA is there for a reason, and I doubt if you will ever legally be able to remove guns from everyone. And that's part of our protection. Let somebody invade this country and it'll be red dawn all over America because people are not going to, The gangs are not going to give up their guns. The militias are not going to give up their guns. The country boys are not going to give up their guns. The city boys are not going to just give up their guns. You might bowl over the police or bowl over the army, but are you going to bowl over the whole population? America is a unique experiment where everybody has a gun. So can you take over a country where everybody has that? This is my house. This is my castle. I dare you to cross that line. It's going to be a little bit harder to go block to block doing that. I mean, you think about revolutions in countries where people don't have guns, they'll find ways of making Molotov cocktails and other types of weapons. But back on track. Would the assassination attempt not have occurred if we had stronger gun control laws? I doubt it, because I doubt if we could remove all the guns off the streets. If somebody is dead set, and I hate to use that term, if somebody is set on doing something, they're going to find a way of doing it. This young man, who was evidently troubled from the videos I've seen, I think he had to have some type of help, and I think it goes beyond ignorance or beyond somebody not doing their job that those roofs were not covered.
Yeah.
I think it plays into a very good narrative in support of Trump for this to have occurred the way it occurred and the way it was, quote unquote, as
He
an
lost,
assassination bot. It helps him out a lot. I'm not saying I don't know, but I definitely think that there needs to be more investigation into this.
and it probably
Uh,
will be.
I got comments from Cynthia H again. Sir, you're absolutely correct. There are many black people who know literally love their guns. Our communities are already under undeserved, which leads to broken, poverty-stricken families, schools, on top of drugs and guns being released as well. I think yes, sometimes strategically guns are released in our community. We don't build guns, we don't make dope, but somehow they keep finding their
They
way
get
in our community.
and they
They can
invest.
stop. They can stop a terrorist from entering the country, or X, Y, and Z from radioactive materials from entering the country, but they can't stop the dope, or they can't stop illegal gun sales. And what is an illegal gun sale? Technically, by law, if I own a gun, I can sell it to somebody just like I sell a car. I don't necessarily have to go to Secretary of State. All I have to do is just like, I turn over this weapon to such and such, write a receipt for them. And that's just how gun laws work. Just like I think vehicle laws are more stringent than gun laws. And I say,
Hmm.
you know what? Let's register every gun from now on. You're not going to be able to register all them old guns, but let's start registering all guns from now
All the
on.
new guns.
All new guns, and we have one sample bullet from every new gun for ballistic purposes. And it's just like having a fingerprint. Oh, this gun belongs. We got a bullet. We know who this gun belongs to. Now, some people say that's invasion of privacy, huh? You can alter a barrel, but you're still going to have some of the same striations. If
Hmm.
if I if the riflings inside of a gun are X, Y, and Z, and you alter the barrel to make it A, B, D, you're still going to have some traces of that X, Y, and Z in there, unless you get a whole new barrel. And that's going to take machining and some knowledge of how to.
So how do they do that? Let's say it looks like this, take it out, but then it's not the same exact one as.
It's. I was watching a movie the other day, and I don't want to get too much into the movie, but when a bullet exits a
Blue
gun,
Mark.
when a bullet exits that barrel has certain imperfections on it, has certain kind of grooves on it. If it's a rifle, it literally has squirrels in it to make that bullet spin. The more a bullet spins, the straighter it'll go. When it leaves the barrel, it touches the barrel and it leaves marks and grooves on that bullet. That bullet is like a signature, it's like a fingerprint, and every barrel is different. You could try a machine. You know what? With the new technology and plastic guns and whatnot, I'm not sure exactly how it would work, but with a metal barrel, and if you want a gun to last a long time, you're gonna have to use a metal barrel. You try to use a plastic barrel, you might get two
Last
shots off
long.
before it blows up in your face. But a metal barrel is going to have certain striations, and each barrel is going to be slightly different. So, how do they go about doing ballistics? They take a shot from that gun. They say,
Okay, so I understand that. So the bullet is recovered.
Right.
with the markings
Right.
that came from out of whatever gun was used. Okay, so now they recover the gun,
Right.
however, and they shoot it again, but it's not exactly the same because somebody done went in and
They could jack up the inside of it.
that's what I'm talking about. So then how do they do that far as on the ballistic level? Like, so now you're looking at one that came from the crime scene. You're looking at one that, like you said, got X, Y, and some similar parts of Z or X or Y,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not completely the same. What happens then?
It's considered like almost like a partial fingerprint.
So it's partial.
So, but this is what I would say: if I'm a criminal and
Well,
if I'm
okay.
a criminal and I shoot somebody, why would I just want to jack up the barrel and not just totally destroy the gun? I would want to. It doesn't make sense just to say I'm going to alter it. You got some cheap people out there and some dummies out there that don't get rid of the gun or that don't dispose of it correctly. Or, I mean, there are ways of getting rid of a gun, or using acid or using certain things like fire in order to to melt the gun. But most criminals are not that bright. You got some super geniuses out there, but you got some guys that toss it in the river and the thing pops up 20 years later and it still has the same striations in it. And you got some people that'll try and jack up the inside of a gun with a file or whatever. But once you do that, the gun's no good anymore. You might as well just destroy it. Unless you're a gunsmith and know how to rebore something. You ever seen those? It's a tool where you can drill screw holes and whatnot inside of an engine or whatever and
Yeah.
recast it. You can do the same thing with a gun, but every time you bore it out, that bullet is not going to come out of that gun the same way. The bigger the bore, the more that bullet is going to be traveling, spiraling, and it's going to be off target because you created a larger bore for it to go through. The smaller the bore, the straighter it goes.
Okay. That was my only question. I'm gone.
That's good information. How you doing, Mark?
All right, I'm not trying to teach people how to criminalize themselves, but the ballistics has been around for years,
Since
just like
forever.
just like fingerprint technology. But I say that's one way of doing things is. Oh, your name is James now.
Oh, that's my bad, James.
He was calling me Joe earlier. I was just letting it go.
Man, hey man, y'all gotta forgive me, man. Give me another week. I'm gonna get y'all right. Give me another week. I'm just
You like
starting.
that substitute teacher? Go ahead, tell
Man,
the police.
I've been sniffing sawdust all day, man. Don't blame me. I've been
Oh, we appreciate it. We appreciate Cynthia H for her comments. We appreciate you, Rich, for coming on and talking with us. If you have any other comments or anything else, please chime in or hit us at 248-820-5053. I'm going to give us another 2 or 3 minutes on this show on this topic. We were talking about assassinations and gun control and talking about the American way. And I don't think that this is the American way. Whether you agree with a candidate or not, murder,
it's not
assassination is not
James.
the way. We have to respect our democracy and respect the way that things turn out. Because technically, when you really get down to it with the president, our vote doesn't count. It's the electoral college's vote that counts. Our vote counts for governor and it counts for mayor and it counts for everything else, but it's that electoral college that really kicks things in.
Isn't it odd that Republicans only get the electoral vote and they become president, but the Democratic candidates got to get the popular vote and the electron vote to become president? Ain't that kind of odd?
I think that the whole system, the way it was constructed, needs to be reexamined. Right now, I would say that for most elections, technology exists that we can get on Facebook and have a moratorium on certain issues. Not even the ideal behind democracy is that everybody gets a vote. We live inside of a democratic republic, which means that we vote for somebody to represent our opinion, and we hope that person represents our opinion. That's where the republic and our democratic republic comes from. That we have somebody republic acting on behalf of the public, on the public again. So I would say that technology exists now where we can get everybody's opinion about whether or not school buses should stop at a railroad crossing, or whether or
Mm.
not smoking should be legal, or whether or not abortion should be legal or illegal, or whether or not there should be gun control or no gun control. we can actually have a real moratorium where people discuss it and break it down. Yes, we will still need leaders for immediate things. Somebody attacks our country. We want to have a real leader in there. We don't want to put that up to moratorium where we're discussing it for hours. But some things like city matters. How much should parking be? Where should we put this new event center? How should we spend this budget? A lot of that stuff could be differently done. I'm looking for that new city on a hill in America where people actually use this new technology in order to vote for what happens inside of a city. And the mayor and the council people just take care of things that need to happen immediately. We take away that power and we put it back in the hands of the people and make a true democracy. The ancient Greek democracy involved all citizens. Well, it didn't involve women, but we're trying to get closer to a better and more perfect union. Our communities are already underserved. We already read that. Quan C. Dr. Mayfield, how you feel? And then we have Cynthia H. saying, great show.
Yeah.
So we had some call ins. We're going to get us another 2 minutes. 248-820-5053. If my opinions have offended you, they are my opinions. They do not represent Out of the Mud Productions. I appreciate them giving me a soapbox to stand on and making this possible. But that's what America should be about. Us discussing things, not shooting it out.
Okay.
And right now, this is a great opportunity. If you have something on your mind, please talk to these brothers over here at Out of the Mud Productions. We might give you a show.
Share
Like,
to share,
like,
like, and
share, and
share.
subscribe. Say what?
And make sure you don't just share it. Share it in some groups. Share it to multiple friends. Let's get this good positive information out. Let's build up this good positive platform.
Right. We're basically standing on the frontier of a new media, just like when television first started. That's the way I see this right here. This is an opportunity for real life human beings locally to share opinions. And that's what America should be about. We should be making better use of this technology. I try and share some positive stuff. I know my opinions don't agree with everybody's, but they're my opinions, and I'm willing to defend my opinions. And that's what America should be about. That willingness to defend your opinions civilly. Just because you don't agree with me don't mean I got to jump out there and get angry and want to beat up somebody or want to shoot somebody. Just because I don't like the candidate that might win. And trust me, living in Flint, there are plenty of candidates here that no, I'm not gonna say that because that would be silly. But people sometimes say silly stuff. They say I'm gonna kill this person or I'm gonna shoot this person, but they don't mean it. And when it comes to the real. Assassination is not the American way. It's not the America
We
I
have
joined the
been,
Marine
never should
that
be.
I joined the Marine Corps for, and it's not the America that a lot of people envision. America has problems, and we need to perfect things and correct things. And we've done some evil things as a nation, but we have to get above and beyond that. This is Marcus Brown. Thank you, Mr. Rich, for coming in.
Are you
Thank you,
very welcome?
thank you, Mr. James Mayfield, the only Mayfield, the greatest Mayfield, for chiming in. Thank you, Mr. Grundy, producer extraordinaire. The second, the third, the second, the third. It's the 33rd of February, right?
It's
Grand.
just a lot of 15.
Careful with that. Everybody have a great day. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of those who were injured in the recent, even to Mr. Trump and his family. So y'all have
And
a great day.
everybody, the No More Tears Cash App is up now. Is capital U, capital F, capital T, capital L, and that stands for Uniting Flint Through Love. So if y'all want to do anything to help out with the No More Tears event, and we got a part two because a lot of the kids want more from the basketball camp that I'm doing from 10 to 11:30. So on August the 31st, I will be doing a skills to drill competition at that same park. So Y'all tune in and join in, and thank y'all in advance for y'all support. Once again, that cash out is capital U, capital F, capital T, and capital L. Uniting Flint through love. Thank you, everybody, in advance.
Got another message out there. Flint After Dark. We're giving you a shout out. Who else is that? Flint After
Flint,
Dark?
shout out.
T Sales at Flint After Dark. Also, join Veterans of Now, 501c19, as we embark on serving those whom have served by feeding the mind, body, and soul in support of veteran needs, their families, and the greater community. Your presence supports our mission. Feed the Need, July 21st, 11 a.m. Following service, food will be served. Pastor Henry Jamerson, 401 Carton Street, Flint, Michigan, 48505, sponsored by the Pentecostal Tabernacle Church of God in Christ. Again, that's July 21st, 11 a.m., 401 Carlton. Free food for vets. We'll be there.
Remind me of that,
I'm going to
because
remind
that
you.
church got some singers, man. They be jamming. And I want to talk to that pastor and ask him, can he send his choir to that No More Tears Day? They be rocking.
Pastor Henry Jamerson is his name. Why don't you join us there and help volunteer and help us with it?
Definitely gonna be there.
All right. Well, we'll talk to him then and see if we can get his choir out of the house. But some of them fathers don't like you taking their daughters out away from the church. I'm gonna leave
Well,
that one
this is
alone.
for a good cause. Sometimes you gotta bring the church to the street, because the street ain't coming to the church.
I'm gonna leave that one alone before my wife censors me the hard way. But we're looking forward to you guys coming out. Thanks again, ChessFrog OmniVersity, Out of the Mud Productions. We're out.